One of the other misconceptions that I had was that, all protein that you can buy on the market is created equal. And like, for example, like pea protein, hemp protein, rice protein, whey protein, if we're talking about animal-based proteins here, like whey, beef, like beef protein, if you've ever had beef protein, and casein, for example. There's many different types of protein, soy, back to plant-based proteins. I used to believe that these different proteins that you can buy, either in whole food form or powdered form, are pretty much the same. And the truth is that that's not true. They're not all created equal. And I think as a vegan, there are two things that you need to look out for when you're assessing the protein by which you're going to be consuming to meet your protein requirements. And that is, how well is that protein absorbed by the body? And how strong is the amino acid profile of that plant-based protein? So if we're talking specifically about protein powders for vegans, we're talking about soy protein powder, we're talking about pea protein powder, hemp, and brown rice. I think, so we've got those ones are the main ones that we're talking about for vegans. And the reality is that each of those 4 protein types absorb very differently in the body. Some absorb better than others, and some of those protein powders have stronger amino acid profiles compared to other types. And, when I was going into this game of being vegan, I didn't really do my research on that. I just kind of assumed that it didn't really matter. Like, I'd go into a supplement store and I'd buy whatever vegan protein was the cheapest, or whatever flavors seemed like the nicest flavor to buy at the time, whatever looked good on the packaging. And I didn't do my research. And it wasn't until, as I said, I lost a bunch of muscle and became relatively unhealthy being vegan, that I realized that, there's 2 key things to look out for, and that is the amino acid profile of that protein. So just as a generalization, a lot of these plant-based proteins have a very weak amino acid profile. Now, there's a common belief that these plant-based proteins are incomplete proteins, and that's not true. The truth is, and I'll link a research article below actually, which is found in research that plant-based proteins are not incomplete forms of protein. It is true that plant-based proteins have a low amount of leucine. Now, as I talked about in previous videos, there's like leucine, isoleucine, and valine, and these are the primary amino acids used to build muscle. And so it is found in research that leucine is the primary amino acid responsible for muscle protein synthesis. And I'll link a research article below which confirms that. And so a lot of these plant-based proteins actually contain lower levels of leucine. It's not that they don't contain leucine, but when you compare the amount of leucine in these plant-based proteins to animal-based proteins, it's not nearly as high. So you need to pay close attention to the labels of these plant-based proteins, and you want to look particularly at the leucine content when you're buying these plant-based proteins as well. Now, in terms of absorption, because that is essential. Now, we're talking about, you could have a protein which has a very strong amino acid profile, but doesn't absorb very well in the body. And so what's the point of that? You have a great protein, but the body can't use it. And so there are certain, plant-based proteins which, they just don't absorb very well at all. For example, hemp protein, so HEMP, hemp protein, is found in research to be poorly absorbed by the body. Now, actually, I'll link this below in an article so you can go and see this for yourself. In fact, hemp protein, I used to take hemp protein back in the day. And, I didn't do my research on this, but hemp protein is it's actually one that I would least recommend for anybody going vegan, and particularly anybody going vegan that plans on lifting weights on a regular basis. And then we contrast that to pea protein. Now, pea protein has a very high amino acid profile and also absorbs very well as well. So, and that's also found in research that the absorption of pea protein is around 80%. So pea protein and rice protein both absorb very well by the body. And so they call that, when we're talking about absorption by the body, we're talking about bioavailability. So, we're talking about 80%, 85% for rice protein and pea protein, which is about the same as, beef, for example. When you, as a meat eater, you're eating beef, it's about 80% as well. So it's about the same. So both pea and rice protein absorb very well by the body. All right, so to wrap this up real quick. So when you're assessing what protein powders to buy as a vegan, you want to consider two things: how strong the amino acid profile is of what you're buying, and how well absorbed by the body that particular powder is. And you can, if you want, you can always do the comparison against, animal-based protein powders such as whey and casein, for example, or beef protein. So I'll give you the recap real quick. So we've got soy protein, which I'm going to talk more about soy protein in another video because that deserves a bit more attention. But soy is not very well absorbed by the body at all. It's like 50 to 60% bioavailability, which is very poor. So we'll talk more about soy in another video. But the other three, we have hemp, pea, and rice. Now, out of those three, I recommend pea and rice protein. And as I said, the reason being is because they both have a very good complementary amino acid profile. So where one lacks in their amino acids, now when I say lack, I mean doesn't contain as much of, but they're both complete proteins. They're also very well absorbed by the body. So we're talking about 85% absorption by the body. So I would recommend those two types of protein, pea and rice protein. Now, hemp is the last one on my list because hemp, as I said before, is not very well absorbed by the body. We're talking, 50, 60% bioavailability, so it doesn't absorb very well and doesn't have the best amino acid structure as well. I mean, as I said before, these are complete proteins. Forget about the argument. We already talked about there is research out there which confirms that these are complete proteins, but they are weaker in their amino acid profile compared to animal-based products. So I hope that's cleared up, the different types of protein you can have as a vegan. So if you have any questions, reach out to me, Brad at seekfitlife.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.